Could you first of all introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Ronny Jordan. I'm from London. I'm a UK recording artist with Island Records.
You just made a new album. Into Dark, yeah. I thought it's a strange title for a positive album.
Light to Dark. Well, I chose that title because it's broad. It's my third album. I mean, if I had named the album Free, then, you wouldn't be asking what does the album mean, Free.
What does it mean?
Well, Light to Dark, it means a transition in life. It could mean almost anything. I mean, for me, I felt that was the best way to describe the title of the album. The album has light moods, dark moods to it. And I just felt it was audible enough. Not only that, but other people will interpret it their own way. And I just felt it was best to leave it open.
Yeah, because I got your album, I listened to it a couple of times. It was like, the guitar is like your main instrument, right? And it describes the mood of the song. So it must be hard to pick a title for every song.
It is hard, but, a lot of the songs that were written there came from personal experiences that I've experienced in my lifetime, and therefore I just felt it was best to channel that through the music.
Could you give me an example? Like, for instance, The Law, what is it about?
Well, the law, it's about the unspoken laws. In your everyday life, you go out the streets, you see the bus queues, you see the train stations, you see the post offices and banks, people are queuing up. You see the law, protects us. And it can also destroy us. The law requires you to earn a living. The law requires you to pay your bills on time. If you don't pay your bills on time, then another law comes into effect. If you step on the wrong side of the law, then the law will deal with you harshly. Well, not harshly, but it will deal with you in a bad way. So therefore, that song was just basically to explain what the law meant, the spoken laws and the unspoken laws.
There's a couple of influences at least I got from your album. Into the Light, I hear Sly and Robbie in there. Do you agree?
Oh, Into the Light? Yeah. Sly and Robbie? Yeah. Does it sound like Sly and Robbie?
Oh, no, influences.
Yeah, but you think influenced by Sly and Robbie? Oh, no, absolutely no. Not at all. I mean, Into the Light, if you, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the intro. The very first intro on the album. Oh no, nothing at all to do with Sly and Robbie.
So what does that have to do with?
It was just a piece to lead into the album. That's all it was, and we just called it Into the Light. But Into the Light, it basically means birth. You're coming away from your mother's womb. You're coming into an open light, into the world. You're introducing yourself for the first time. And if you listen to the very end of the album, The Last Goodbye, it's when death comes and, you say goodbye to life.
But what are your influences on your album? I mean, there must be artists you like. Or...
Well, I describe the album as 70s feel with a 90s approach. Mm-hmm. All the musicians on the album, including myself, were all influenced by the 70s style of music. And I was lucky enough to...
Can you name me any artists?
Beg your pardon?
Can you name me any names or artists?
Oh, I mean... Miles Davis, George Benson, Donald Byrd, Eddie Henderson, Herbie Hancock, George Duke, Stanley Clarke, Ramsey Lewis.
Okay, enough.
It's just some Chaka Khan, Rufus, Quincy Jones. I can go on naming them, but there's a lot of influences from the 70s, and that was a decade where I grew, into a musician. I became focused on certain styles. I came to prominence. I was able to digest in, because I was 8 years old when the 70s started. Well, 7 to 8 years old. So I was able to digest in the sounds. Even Bob Marley and the Wailers, all these sounds were coming in. Jimi Hendrix, funky sounds. And, when I say 70s feel with a 90s approach, the 70s feel is from the human element. From, the sounds, wah-wah guitars, Hammond organ, Fender Rhodes, slap bass. That's the 70s feel. And the 90s approach is really more from the rhythmic point of view, from the drum programming, technology. You're in the 90s and you do a groove record, it has to groove. It has to sit.
Yeah, because that was my next question. There's a brilliant production on your album.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, the thing is, I was in a way disappointed with the last album because I was not in control the last album, meaning the Quiet Revolution, I only chose one song on that album. That was Tinseltown. And I was disappointed. I felt that I took 10 steps with The Antidote, my first album, and I kind of took 5 steps back with the Quiet Revolution. And the reason why that was happening with the second album was because there was a lot of things going on at the time. Because of the success of So What, I was touring the world in a short space of time, and I had to really learn fast, and I was pretty new to the industry. And by the time the Quiet Revolution came, the album was started too early, because The Antidote hadn't even been out for a year. 8 months after The Antidote was released, I was studying on the Quiet Revolution. And, I was forced into that situation, and if I'd known, I would have waited 18 months before I started. And I needed to take a break, and I didn't take a break. But after the Quiet Revolution, I took 6 months out, and I was able to reflect on things that had happened and what direction I wanted to go into. And I started writing the songs for the new album.
The beats on your album, are they drums, or are they computers, or are they samples?
It's a combination. It's programmed, and some of it. It's mainly programmed, really.
Really?
Yeah, it's mainly programmed. Yeah,
it's totally
well, absolutely. You see, the thing is, if you check the 70s, right, certain records, favourite records of mine, the drums, great grooves, they slightly speeded up, or they slightly slowed down. In those days, it was accepted. But nowadays, in the 90s, whether you're an R&B group, funk, reggae, soul, jazz, funk, if you do a groove, it has to sit. It has to be the same from start to finish, i.e. computers. And so we use computers, and we try to get the right approach. We try to get the tempos right, first of all, so the song's not too fast or too slow. Once the tempo is just right for the song, we set about the drums, and we get it done in such a way that it sounds real. And the advantage of doing that is, if you get a drummer with a live kit to play, you can work on his sound, and his sound will sound good. But you can get better sounds if you program, because there's literally hundreds of sounds at your disposal. You have access to all these different kick drums, snare drums, and
still there's, like, until now, the sounds that have been used in computers were, like, recognizable. You can hear on an album, like, oh, this is a Roland computer, or this is I don't know, whatever computer. You can recognize computer sounds, but on your album, it's totally impossible.
Yeah, well, it's all drum machines, and some of it's computer, not all of it's computer, but it's all programming. But it's all done with a human element feel to it, so the tempo's just right.
Brilliant. There's a lot of hip-hop, jazz, groove crossover nowadays. The Fugees are big, you know them. Would you ever consider to call, like, a hip-hop artist to collaborate on your album?
No. I mean, to be honest, I think in my albums you'll probably find there's a lot more musical depth to them. It's not all beats and grooves like a lot of records, Because I've been a musician, before I got into beats, I was a musician, pure and simple. And so therefore the musical thing's going to come out. And so it makes my albums that different.
But I mean, there are live bands going on, like with hip-hop crews as well, or people who kind of like toast or reggae, put the toast reggae style together with the jazz style. You wouldn't know that as well?
Not really. I mean, I just do what comes to me naturally,
This album of yours is dedicated to Danny Cordell?
Yes, Danny was one of the founders of Island Records, my label, and he discovered the Cranberries and U2.
Thank you.
And he was very instrumental in getting me exposed in America. And when I recorded The Antidote, it was such a different album. You heard The Antidote?
Yeah, I heard it.
Yes, it was such a different album to what was out there, and no one had heard anything like it. And some of the record company at the time didn't know who I was, and a lot of them some of them expressed some doubt as to whether it would do anything. But Danny stuck his neck out for me, and he was pretty much my biggest champion in that. Well, sadly, Danny died, and I just felt that it was fitting that, I should dedicate the album to him.
And that also reflects on songs in the album? I mean, this experience of yours? Because he was called a friend to you, then he?
Well, Light to Dark, again, I mean, the actual song was actually written because, when you've known someone for a while, and I'm sure you've had friends or relatives that have died, when they die, it's like they were a shining light to you. And once they're gone, that light is out, it's darkness. So, that's another way, I suppose, you could describe that tune, Light to Dark.
That's a beautiful way to say that. Are you a religious man?
I'm not a churchgoer, but I do believe that there is a supreme being up there. And the reason why I believe that is the fact that I was 4 years old when I started playing guitar. And I was self-taught. I never went to school. And that was a gift from the Supreme Being. And because of that, I believe in him.
But you don't go to church. Why not?
Well, funny enough, I haven't been to church for years, but I did go to church a few weeks ago. But that was because there was a christening. A baby was being christened. And I hadn't been for a long time. And they were singing these songs, and I felt pretty bad because a lot of these songs I used to know and remember when I was a kid. But now I went there and they were singing these songs. I forgot the words. I just completely, because of all this music that I do, it's totally erased,
You think club DJs on your album as well. Why is that?
I beg your pardon?
You think club DJs on your album as well?
Do I have club DJs?
No, you think them on your album.
Oh, yes. The reason being is, they have, supported my music. Club DJs, fans, and fellow artists as well. Big name artists have given me encouragement. And, it was just too numerous to name. But, they've always supported my music. And in a way, this album's for them.
You live in London, right? What are the best clubs to hear your style of music in London?
I beg your pardon?
What are the best clubs to hear your style of music in London?
Wow. They pretty much play everywhere. Wow, I mean, there's just so many clubs. I mean, they play at...
What are your favorite clubs? Where can I find you?
Well, to be honest with you, I've not really been to clubs for quite a while now. I used to go years ago, but when I used to go to clubs, there was a club in London called Crackers, which was very exciting. It was in West 1, and that was a pretty hip place. Nowadays, because I tour and I go abroad and I fly out a lot, whenever I get home, I tend to just be a homeboy, I chill out. I sort of go underground. Nobody can find me. Because, it's like I have to make the use of my home life. So I don't really go to clubs anymore. But Crackers have been closed down, which is a shame. Because when I went there, it was the funkiest place going. Serious joint.
You've been touring all over the world.
Yeah.
You've been in Tokyo, right, too, in Japan.
I've been to...
You've been in Japan as well?
I've been in Japan, Tokyo. I've been to Australia.
How's Japan? Because of your wild stories about Japan.
It was fantastic, brilliant. I'm going there again. It's a wild place. It's, they really have taken to my music in a big way, and I really enjoy myself. Japan's great. It's a great market for me.
I hear people in Japan are far more positive and far more enthusiastic about music and about stars, quote unquote.
Oh, they are. They appreciate the fact that you can sort of leave from where you are and come to play for them. They appreciate that, and I always try to give my best there, because, they spend a lot of money. I don't know how many guilders they spend. I know it's not very, I know it's Dutch currency and yen. I can't actually compare the two, but they spend a lot of money. And, I tend to always want to give them,
Would you ever consider playing in South Africa?
Well, I've been offered to play South Africa. I was supposed to play in South Africa last Christmas, but I had to cancel that because I had to finish this album. And in fact, I finished this album Christmas Eve. So unfortunately, I couldn't play. But I'm going to play in South Africa next year.
How do you feel about that?
I feel the time is not right. I was surprised, actually, some years ago. I was playing at the Nice Jazz Festival, and a South African reporter and the TV crew found me in a hotel lobby, and they came and they interviewed me. And I didn't know this, but I was perhaps one of the biggest artists in South Africa, and I didn't even know everybody has my records. And in fact, this festival I was supposed to play last Christmas was 10,000 people, and I was the headline act, and I was the only international act. The rest was South African, and I didn't know my records were very big there. But I wouldn't have played there years ago, but I do feel that, you know, times have changed, and my idol of all time is Nelson Mandela, and I would like to meet him. He's the person I would most like to meet, and Muhammad Ali as well.
But why Muhammad Ali?
Well, Muhammad Ali, you know, he brought black pride in just when, you know, the black people needed it. Because, you know, black people have found that they weren't loved by white society. And, you know, because of the history in schools, you know, there was a definite black history which the schools have managed to keep down, you know. All they say was blacks only existed as slaves. They didn't say that blacks, you know, were kings and queens of empires thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years ago. And so therefore they, you know, extinguished that whole history. And, you know, Muhammad Ali came on the scene and he said, no, that's wrong, you know, be proud of what you are. You know, you are beautiful people. And he really cared for his people, and he was basically our manhood. And, you know, it's almost like when he was boxing, we all felt we were the greatest. You know, and, you know, he's a living legend. And when you think that Malcolm X is dead, John Lennon is dead, J.F. Kennedy is dead, a lot of those 60s icons are dead, you know, even Sam Cooke, the vocalist, you know, Muhammad Ali is still alive, and he's still well, and he's definitely a living legend. And, you know, as well as Nelson Mandela, without a question of a doubt. And, you know, I mean, I would go to South Africa. I would love to meet Nelson Mandela, you know.
Do you think there's a chance you can?
I beg your pardon?
Do you think there's a chance you can meet him?
Well, apparently one of the big TV reporters there is trying to arrange it. And, you know, Nelson's basically given his blessing to the whole thing. And, you know, it really would be an honour to play there, and not only to play, but to meet him. And I've never played in the motherland before, so it would be a dream come true.
What would you ask him? I mean, what would you ever ask him if you meet Nelson Mandela?
I would ask him what kept him going through all those dark years in jail. What kept him going? I mean, you know, he's an incredible man, you know. A lot of men in this position would have just broken down, but have taken the easy way out, suicide, you know. But he had faith. He has a lot of inbuilt strength, more inbuilt strength than we'll ever know. And I would ask him basically what kept him going. Because, you know, I remember when I started school in the 60s, I saw a big picture of this man. And over the years, I kept seeing this picture. And then as I got older, I grew to realize that it was Nelson Mandela. And I'm thinking, why is he there? And then as I got older, the whole horror of the thing came to me, that he was a political prisoner. And, you know, there was this song, Free Nelson Mandela. And I used to sing it, but I sang it without actually thinking what it was about. And then I realized what it was about. And since then, it's just left an imprint on my mind. And I remembered being at home a few years ago, and when he was released, it was possibly one of the most emotional times of my life. You know, to actually see him walking out with his ex-wife was something, I think, when the year 2000 comes by and you review the century, I think that would be one of the major talking points.
And playing there.
Absolutely.
Don't you think it's strange to play in a country, when you go there, where there's like this small white minority still playing Nazi in such a beautiful country?
Oh no, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. But it's only a minority. It's not a majority. So, you know, you don't pay them no mind.
No? Should we just forget about him? Or?
Oh, well, yeah, forget about them. You know they're still there, but it's the minority, you know. It's always been a minority, you know, even when you look at the far right in Europe, you know, in France and Germany, and even in England and other parts of Europe, it's the far right. It's the minority. And, you don't let them bother you. I mean, it's gotten so extreme. It's not just blacks they're attacking, it's foreigners. They don't want any other nationalities in their country. So it's not just a black thing, it's basically foreign.
When will you play here again?
I hope to come back to Amsterdam in November sometime to do a European tour. I was hoping to do the North Sea Jazz Festival, but apparently they told me I couldn't do it because I played with Jazz Mataz last year, which, to be quite frank with you, I think is ridiculous. Jazz Mataz, it's not Ronny Jordan, and Ronny Jordan's not Jazz Mataz. I was glad I did the tour with Jazz Mataz, but, I didn't get to play any of my music. I mean, it was really upsetting because I've got a new album, and really I should be touring it this summer, because I have the band, I mean, last year in Montreal, I played, in the Miles Davis Hall with Jazz Mataz, and everybody wanted me to play So What, because it's a Miles Davis tune, and I couldn't play it, because it's not my show. If it was my show, then as night's going to come, I'm going to play So What, but I couldn't play it. So because I played these festivals last year with Jazz Mataz, the promoters are saying, oh, you can't play this year because you were here last year. I'm saying, but I was here with Jazz Mataz. I said, yeah, but you still played. And I felt that was ridiculous. And, to be quite frank with you, they might want me next year, but I might not be around.
Shit.
And this is why I might just go to America and do the festivals there. It's really bad, but, it's messed up, but what can you do?
There's no chance of you that they will change your mind. They will change their mind.
No,
or
it's too late now. It's too late. They've already booked the acts for the festivals. I mean, I have never played North Sea Festival on my own. And, I've done a few shows in Amsterdam here and parts of Holland, but I've never played the North Sea. And I've played it with Jazz Mataz, but it's not the same. I'm not playing my music. I was playing Guru's music. And, I wasn't to know this last year, but, you would think that a new album, they would want you there. And the stupid thing is, there's other acts who performed last year who are performing again this year. So
I was actually expecting you to see at North Sea Jazz Festival, so I'm kind of flabbergasted here.
Oh yeah, I mean everyone is, but what can I say? I mean it's ridiculous, and I mean like I say, they might want me next year, but I just may not be available because I want to do the Montreal Jazz Festival. That's a bigger festival.
No way, it's even bigger?
Huh?
I thought North Sea Jazz Festival was one of the biggest.
No, it's one of the biggest in acts, but I mean, I played 18,000 people in the Montreal Jazz Festival a few years ago, and they want me back there. And I have a very big following in Canada and the United States, and there's festivals happening there as well. And in any case, my plans are now to do a live album somewhere in Japan for next year. And next year, July, I want to start my fourth studio album. So I want to keep things rolling,
Brilliant. Still, I think your new album is, I think Laid Back is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah? Well, it's funny, Laid Back almost never made it.
Why not?
Well, the thing is, it was I who fought to get it on there. Because, I liked their last album. I was more in control of this album. There was this tune I wrote called Inside with my keyboard player, Joel Campbell, who's on this album. And that was originally supposed to be on this album. On the first mastering cut, we had Inside on there. But then when I listened to the album, I liked it until it got to that part. And I didn't like the way it flowed. And I said, well, no, we've got to have Laid Back in there. And they changed it. And that's what you got there now. But I like it. It reminds me of The Antidote. It wouldn't be out of place on The Antidote. Whereas, funny enough, Inside sounds more like Tinseltown. It's because it's acoustic guitar, and I figured, personally, I prefer The Antidote to Quiet Revolution. And, the Laid Backs reminded me more of The Antidote, and that's why I had it on there.
What is your favorite song? My
favorite song on there, I'd have to say Closer Than Close. Because I like the way it builds, and it's one of those tunes where you can just chill out to. But I mean, all the songs are my favourites, basically. I mean, I just love them all for different reasons. I mean, what I love most about the album is if you turn it low, you can chill out to it. Yet if you turn it up, it's a party, it's a club, you know, and it's both.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.